He spent 3 nights sleeping in his car with his 2 children, unaware that $210 million was waiting for him in a trust fund just 20 m away. Before we dive into the story, make sure to smash subscribe because tomorrow we have an extra special story for you that will blow your mind. The eviction notice came on a Tuesday morning in late October. Jamal Whitaker stood in the doorway of apartment 218, his hands trembling as he read the red letters stamped across the page. Final notice. Behind him, 7-year-old Aliyah practiced her spelling words at the kitchen table, while 5-year-old Kai built towers with empty cereal boxes, the last of their food. Jamal had 36 hours to pack up their entire life and find somewhere else to go. He'd been fighting this moment for 6 months. Ever since the factory where he'd worked, double shifts, closed down without warning. 217 people lost their jobs that day. But Jamal had lost more than income. He'd lost the delicate balance that kept his family afloat. The unemployment checks barely covered groceries. His savings, all $943 of it, vanished into medical bills when Kai caught pneumonia last spring. Now standing in that doorway with October wind cutting through his thin sweater, Jamal felt the weight of every choice, every sacrifice, every prayer that had led to this moment. "Daddy, what's wrong?" Aliyah's voice drifted from the kitchen, sweet and concerned. The little girl had her father's dark eyes and sharp intuition. She could read Jamal's moods like a book, even when Jamal tried his hardest to hide them. "Nothing, baby," Jamal called back, folding the eviction notice and sliding it into his pocket, "just checking the mail." But his voice cracked on the last word, and Aliyah appeared in the hallway, spelling homework forgotten. She wore her favorite purple dress, the one with tiny flowers that Jamal had found at Second Chance Thrift for the $3. It was getting too small, the hem riding up above her knees, but Aliyah refused to part with it. "Are we moving again?" Aliyah asked quietly. The question hit Jamal like a physical blow. Again? Because this wasn't their first eviction. 2 years ago, after Tyrone walked out, left a note on the refrigerator saying he couldn't handle the pressure anymore, they'd lost their house. The beautiful 2-story colonial with the wraparound porch and the backyard where Kai took his first steps. Gone. Then the smaller rental across town. Gone. Now this cramped apartment with its peeling wallpaper and radiator that clanged all night. Soon to be gone, too. "Maybe," Jamal whispered, kneeling down to Aliyah's level. "But wherever we go, we'll be together. That's what matters, right?" Aliyah nodded, but her bottom lip quivered. She was old enough to understand what moving meant. New school, new kids who would stare at her worn-out shoes, new teachers to explain why she sometimes fell asleep in class because the shelter CS were too hard or the car was too cold or her stomach was too empty. Jamal pulled his daughter close, breathing in the scent of cheap shampoo and childhood innocence. Over Aliyah's shoulder, he could see Kai still playing with his cereal box towers, blissfully unaware that in 36 hours they'd have nowhere to call home. The rest of that day passed in a blur of desperate phone calls. Jamal sat cross-legged on his bedroom floor, surrounded by past-due bills and his ancient flip phone, calling every shelter, every charity, every distant relative who might take pity on them. "I'm sorry, Dad. We're at capacity. There's a waiting list of 3 months. We only take men without children." "Have you tried the mission on Elmwood Avenue?" He had. He'd tried everywhere. His sister Lena lived in Portland, but they hadn't spoken in 4 years. Not since the fight about Tyrone. His mother had passed when Aliyah was a baby. His father, well, he didn't even know if he was still alive. He'd left when he was 12, and Jamal had spent years telling himself he didn't care. By evening, he'd made 47 phone calls and had nothing to show for it but a hoarse voice and a growing sense of panic. The kids ate peanut butter sandwiches for dinner, the last of the peanut butter scraped thin across stale bread. Jamal told them it was a picnic, spreading a blanket on the living room floor and pretending it was an adventure. Kai giggled when he made his sandwich into a funny face. Aliyah played along, but her eyes held a wisdom number 7-year-old should possess. That night, Jamal didn't sleep. He packed their belongings into garbage bags and the 3 cardboard boxes he'd saved from their last move. Everything they owned fit into 7 bags and 3 boxes. 7 bags and 3 boxes to show for 32 years of life. He folded Aliya's school uniforms carefully, knowing appearance mattered, knowing kids could be cruel. He wrapped Kai's collection of toy cars, 8 in total, each one missing wheels or doors, in newspaper. He packed the photo album that held the only pictures of better times. Aliya's first birthday. Kai learning to walk. The Christmas before Tyrone left, when they'd all worn matching pajamas and smiled like nothing could ever go wrong. At 3 o'clock in the morning, he found the letter. It was tucked inside his mother's old jewelry box, yellowed with age and worn soft from handling. His mother had written it when Jamal was preparing for fatherhood with Aliya on the way, when the future still seemed bright with possibility. "My darling Jamal," it read, "I watch you preparing for fatherhood with such joy and terror. And I remember feeling the same way when I carried you. But here's what I've learned. Fathers are made of stronger stuff than we know. We bend but don't break. We sacrifice without keeping score. We love with a fierceness that could move mountains. You're going to be magnificent, my dear one. And when the hard days come, because they will remember that you come from a long line of men who survived the impossible. Your grandfather fled war with nothing but the clothes on his back and built a new life. I raised you alone after your father left and watched you grow into someone remarkable. Now it's your turn. Trust in your strength. It's greater than you know." Jamal pressed the letter to his chest and sobbed silently, his tears falling on the garbage bags full of their life. His mother had been wrong about one thing. Sometimes fathers did break. Sometimes strength wasn't enough. Sometimes you could love your children with the force of a hurricane and still fail to keep a roof over their heads. Wednesday passed in negotiations with the landlord, a man named Victor, who'd inherited the building from his father and had all the compassion of a brick wall. Jamal begged for one more week. Just one more week to figure something out. He offered to clean the other apartments, to paint, to do anything. "Rent," Victor said, not even looking up from his phone. "You've had 3 months of chances. I've got people lined up who can actually pay." "I have children," Jamal pleaded. "Where are we supposed to go?" "That's not my problem." And legally, it wasn't. Jamal knew that. But morally, how did someone look at 2 innocent kids and feel nothing? How did the world become so cold that a man could put a family on the street and sleep soundly that night? By Thursday morning, they were out. Jamal loaded their belongings into his 1998 Ford Taurus, a car held together by rust and prayer. The garbage bags went in the trunk. The boxes got wedged into the back seat. The kids sat on top of their blankets and pillows. Aliya holding Kai's hand as he clutched his favorite toy car, a red Ferrari missing 3 wheels. "Where are we going?" Kai asked as Jamal started the engine. "On an adventure," he said, forcing brightness into his voice. "We're going to camp in the car for a little while." "Like camping, but warmer." "I like camping," Kai said, and Jamal's heart shattered a little more. They drove to Bayview Park first, thinking they could spend the day there while Jamal figured out their next move. But the sign at the entrance made his stomach drop. "Park closes at dusk. No overnight parking. Violators will be towed." So they drove to the Walmart parking lot where Jamal had heard people could park overnight, but the security guard knocked on his window within an hour. "Can't stay here," he said, though his eyes were kind. "Manager's orders. Try the truck stop off Highway 47. The truck stop was loud and smelled like diesel, but no one bothered them. Jamal parked between 2 semi-trucks, hoping their bulk would provide some privacy and protection. He'd brought the blankets from their beds, and he created a nest in the back seat for the kids. Aliya and Kai thought it was fun at first, a real adventure like he'd promised. They played I Spy until the sun set. Then Jamal told them stories about brave princes and princesses who overcame impossible odds. But when darkness fell and the temperature dropped, the adventure lost its charm. October in northern Ohio was unforgiving. Jamal had grabbed their winter coats in a rush to pack, but coats weren't enough when the temperature dipped into the 30s. He ran the car's heater until the gas gauge dropped dangerously low, then shut it off and pulled the children close, using his body heat to keep them warm. "I'm cold, Daddy," Kai whimpered around midnight. "I know, baby. Just close your eyes. Think warm thoughts." "Like what? Like summer? Like the beach? Like hot chocolate with marshmallows?" "I can't remember what hot chocolate tastes like." Jamal held him tighter and swallowed his tears. Number 5-year-old should forget the taste of hot chocolate. Number 7-year-old should be solving math problems by the light of a truck stop's neon sign. No father should be measuring his failures by the shivers of his children. The first night was the hardest. Jamal didn't sleep at all, keeping watch over his kids, starting the car every hour to run the heat for 5 minutes, rationing their gas like liquid gold. He'd filled up the tank with his last $20, and when that was gone, he didn't know what they'd do. Morning brought new challenges. The kids needed to use the bathroom, but the truck stop facilities were filthy and frightening. Jamal stood guard outside the stall while Aliyah used it, then carried Kai in because he was scared of the loud hand dryers. They brushed their teeth using water from a bottle, and Jamal tried to make Aliyah's hair look presentable for school. "I don't want to go," Aliyah said quietly as Jamal braided her hair in the car. "What if someone asks where we live? You tell them we're between houses right now." Jamal said, "It's not a lie. We are between our old house and our new one. We just haven't found the new one yet. What if they ask why I'm wearing the same clothes as yesterday?" Jamal's hand stilled in Aliyah's hair. He'd managed to grab only 2 uniforms in the packing chaos, and laundry was now an impossible luxury. "Tell them your other uniform is in the wash. I'll figure out how to clean this one tonight." "Okay." Aliyah nodded. But Jamal could see the weight settling on her small shoulders. 7 years old and already learning to lie to protect their dignity. Jamal dropped Aliyah at school with a kiss and a promise that everything would be better by pickup time. Then he drove to the library with Kai, the only warm place he could think of that wouldn't require money. Kai played quietly with puzzles in the children's section, while Jamal used the computer to search for jobs, shelters, resources, anything. But Thursday became Friday, and Friday became Saturday, and nothing changed except the fuel gauge dropping lower and the nights growing colder. They developed routines born of necessity: mornings at the library, afternoons at the park until it closed, evenings in different parking lots, the 24-hour grocery store, the hospital visitor lot, anywhere they could blend in for a few hours. Jamal learned which fast food restaurants had the cleanest bathrooms. He learned that if you bought one small coffee at McDonald's, you could sit inside for 2 hours before anyone asked you to leave. He learned that pride was a luxury he could no longer afford when he started checking payphones for forgotten coins and searching parking lots for drop change. The food ran out on Saturday. The peanut butter sandwiches were a distant memory. Jamal's stomach had been empty for 2 days, but he'd hidden it from the kids, pretending to eat while giving them his portions. But now there were no portions left to give. "I'm hungry," Kai said as they sat in the library Saturday morning. "I know, sweetheart. We'll eat soon. You said that yesterday." He was right. He had said that yesterday and the day before. Jamal looked at his son, really looked at him, and saw the hollowness creeping into his cheeks. His Spider-Man shirt hung looser than it had a week ago. Aliyah sat nearby, pretending to read, but Jamal could see her hands pressed against her stomach, trying to quiet the growling. That's when Jamal did something he'd never imagined. He walked to the circulation desk where Beatrice, the elderly librarian who'd been kind to them all week, was sorting returns. "Beatrice," Jamal whispered, his voice breaking, "I'm sorry to ask this, but do you have any food?" "Anything? My kids haven't eaten since yesterday." Beatrice's hand covered Jamal's immediately. "Oh, honey, wait right here." She returned with a brown bag from the staff room. 2 sandwiches, an apple, a bag of pretzels, and a juice box. "This was my lunch," Beatrice said softly. "But I had a big breakfast." Jamal knew it was a lie. Beatrice was rail thin and probably lived on a fixed income. But the kindness in her eyes was real. "Thank you," Jamal breathed. "I'll pay you back as soon as you'll do no such thing. You just take care of those babies." Jamal divided the food carefully, half a sandwich each for the kids, a few pretzels to save for dinner, the apple sliced 3 ways. He told the children Beatrice was their lunch fairy and made it seem like a magical gift rather than charity. They ate slowly, savoring each bite, and Jamal memorized their faces. The way Kai's eyes lit up at the first taste of turkey. The way Aliyah tried to make her half sandwich last by taking tiny bites. That afternoon, while the kids napped in the car, Jamal sat in the driver's seat and faced the truth. They couldn't live like this. His children were hungry, cold, and scared. No matter how many adventure stories he told, he needed help. Real help. And he needed it now. He swallowed what was left of his pride and called Lena. The phone rang 4 times before his sister answered. "Jamal, Lena, I." The word stuck in his throat. "How did you tell your successful sister, the one with the tech job and the Portland condo, that you were homeless? I need help. Are you okay? You sound we're living in my car." The words tumbled out in a rush. "Me and the kids. We got evicted and I lost my job. And I've tried everything, but oh my God, Jamal, why didn't you call sooner? Because you were right about Tyrone, about everything. And I was too proud. Stop. Just stop. Where are you?" "Milford, Ohio." Okay, let me think." Jamal could hear typing in the background. "I can wire you money for a motel tonight. Then we'll figure out how to get you here. The kids can stay with me while you get back on your feet." "Lena, I can't take your money." "Yes, you can, and you will, because that's what family does." Jamal broke down completely then, sobbing in the front seat while his children slept behind him. All the fear, all the desperation, all the weight of trying to be strong poured out in ugly, gasping tears. Lena stayed on the line making soothing sounds, being the big sister Jamal had pushed away. "There's a Western Union in the Target." Lena said, "I'm sending $500. Get a room. Get food. Get the kids warm. We'll talk tomorrow about next steps. I'll pay you back." "Jamal, stop. Just go get the money." But when Jamal arrived at Target, the Western Union counter was closed. A handwritten sign said, "Technical difficulties. We'll reopen Monday." Monday. 2 more nights in the car. 2 more days of hungry children and gas station bathrooms and pretending everything was fine. Jamal stood at that counter for a long moment, his forehead pressed against the glass, fighting the urge to scream. That's when fate intervened in the strangest way. An elderly woman approached, wearing a Target vest and a concerned expression. Her name tag read, Evelyn, and she had the kind of eyes that had seen everything. "Honey, are you all right?" Jamal straightened, wiping his eyes. "The Western Union is closed. My sister was sending. I just need." "Come with me," Evelyn said firmly. She led Jamal to a small break room and sat him down at a plastic table. "Now you tell Mr. Evelyn what's going on." Maybe it was the fatherly tone. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the fact that Jamal had nothing left to lose. But he told this stranger everything. The eviction, the car, the hungry children waiting outside. Evelyn listened without judgment, occasionally patting Jamal's hand. "Lord have mercy," she said when Jamal finished. "You wait right here." She returned 10 minutes later with 2 full grocery bags, bread, peanut butter, apples, granola bars, bottled water, and even a few treats, cookies, and juice boxes that would make his children smile. "I can't," Jamal protested. "You can and you will," Evelyn said firmly. "And there's this, too." She pressed $40 into Jamal's hand. "It's not much, but it'll get you gas and maybe a hot meal." "Why are you doing this?" Evelyn smiled sadly. Because 30 years ago, I was you living in a station wagon with 3 kids and too much pride to ask for help. A stranger saved us with a bag of groceries and a tank of gas. I've been waiting 30 years to pay it forward. Jamal hugged this woman, this angel in a Target vest, and felt something he hadn't felt in days. Hope. That night, they parked behind a church. Jamal had noticed it earlier, Harmony Baptist, with a sign out front that read, "No matter who you are or where you've been, you're welcome here." He hoped that extended to their parking lot. The groceries from Evelyn meant full bellies for the first time in days. The kids munched on apples and cookies while Jamal made them peanut butter sandwiches. It felt like a feast. With the $40, he'd bought 5 gallons of gas and a hot rotisserie chicken from the deli. They ate it with their fingers, juice running down their chins, and for a moment they were just a family sharing dinner, not homeless people living in a car. "This is the best chicken ever," Kai declared. And Aliyah agreed. Jamal smiled, tucking away another memory. How his children could find joy in the smallest things. How resilient they were. How much they deserved better than this. As darkness fell, he noticed the church's outdoor lights created a warm glow around their car. It felt safer here somehow. Protected, he tucked the kids into their blanket nest, telling them stories until their eyes grew heavy. "Daddy," Aliyah whispered just before sleep took her. "Are we going to be okay?" "Yes, baby. We're going to be okay." "Promise?" "I promise." It was a lie. Of course, Jamal had no idea if they'd be okay. Monday felt like a lifetime away. But fathers tell lies sometimes. Necessary lies. Lies that let their children sleep peacefully, even when the world is falling apart. That night, something strange happened. Around midnight, Jamal woke to the sound of footsteps near the car. His heart hammered as he peered through the foggy window. An elderly man in a security uniform was placing something under his windshield wiper. He looked at the car for a long moment, maybe noticing the blankets in the windows, the bags piled high, the telltale signs of a family in crisis. Then he walked away. Jamal waited until his footsteps faded before carefully opening the door. Under the wiper was an envelope with "For the family" and the Taurus written in shaky handwriting. Inside was $60 and a note. "So you from my rounds. The church leaves the side door unlocked on cold nights. Bathroom is first door on the right. God bless." Jamal clutched the note to his chest and looked up at the stars barely visible through the light pollution. $60 meant gas for a week. It meant hot food tomorrow. It meant they could run the heater tonight without fear. But more than that, it meant they weren't invisible. Someone had seen them. Someone cared. He woke the kids gently. "Come on, babies. Let's go use a real bathroom." The church was warm and smelled like lemon polish and old hymns. The bathroom was clean with soft paper towels and soap that smelled like vanilla. Jamal let the kids wash their faces and hands properly for the first time in days. He even managed to rinse out one of Aliyah's uniforms in the sink, hoping it would dry by morning. On their way out, he noticed a bulletin board covered in announcements. Bible study on Wednesdays, choir practice on Thursdays, food pantry on Saturdays. Today, Jamal stared at that last one. Food pantry 9 to noon. All welcome. It was 1:15 in the morning. In less than 8 hours, he could get food for his children without begging, without spending their precious gas money, without depending on the kindness of strangers. It felt like finding water in the desert. They spent the rest of the night in the car. But something had shifted. The $60 from the security guard, plus what remained of Evelyn's money, meant they had almost $90. Not a fortune, but enough to breathe, enough to hope, enough to make it to Monday, when the Western Union would reopen and Lena's money would be waiting. Sunday dawned crisp and clear. Jamal woke early before the kids and watched the sunrise paint the church parking lot gold. In daylight, he could see the building was old but well-maintained with stained glass windows depicting scenes of kindness. Jesus feeding the multitudes. The Good Samaritan helping a stranger. How fitting, he thought. Aliyah stirred first, blinking in the morning light. Daddy, are we at a church? We are, baby. Can we go to the service? Jamal hesitated. Their clothes were wrinkled. They hadn't had proper showers in a week, and he wasn't sure he could sit through a sermon without breaking down. But the longing in Aliyah's voice decided it. If you want to, sweetheart. They did their best to clean up in the church bathroom. Jamal rewet Aliyah's braids, smoothed Kai's unruly hair, and even managed to make himself look somewhat presentable. They weren't fancy, but they were clean enough. The congregation was small, maybe 50 people, mostly elderly, but they welcomed the family with warm smiles and no questions. An usher led them to a pew near the back, and an older woman immediately scooted over to make room. Welcome, she whispered. I'm Harriet, Jamal, he whispered back. And Aliyah and Kai, beautiful children, Harriet said, then pressed a piece of butterscotch candy into Kai's hand, winking when his eyes went wide. The service was simple and short, but the sermon felt written just for Jamal. The pastor, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, spoke about perseverance in dark times, about how sometimes God's miracles come through ordinary people, about how asking for help isn't weakness, but wisdom. After the service, Harriet touched Jamal's arm. We have coffee and donuts in the fellowship hall. Please join us. Jamal's pride warred with his children's needs for about 2 seconds. Thank you. We'd love to. The fellowship hall was warm and full of chatter. The kids fell on the donut table like they discovered treasure. And Jamal didn't have the heart to limit them. They needed this, not just the food, but the normalcy, the feeling of being part of something, even temporarily. I haven't seen you before, the pastor said, appearing at Jamal's elbow with a cup of coffee. We're new to the area, Jamal said carefully. The pastor's eyes were knowing but kind. Well, you're welcome here anytime. I'm Pastor Tamara, but everyone calls me Pastor Tammy. Thank you. The service was beautiful. I'm glad it spoke to you. She paused, then added quietly. We have resources, you know, if you ever need anything. Food pantry, clothing closet, emergency assistance, no questions asked, no judgment given. Jamal's eyes filled. Thank you, he managed. Also, Pastor Tammy continued, I noticed your car in the lot overnight. Our security guard mentioned it. I want you to know you're safe here. We don't tow. We don't call police. We don't judge. If you need to park here until you figure things out. You're welcome. This time, Jamal couldn't stop the tears. Pastor Tammy simply handed him a tissue and patted his shoulder. God works through people, she said softly. Let us be his hands. The kindness overwhelmed Jamal, but he managed to nod. Aliyah appeared then, donut crumbs on her face and a smile brighter than the sun. Daddy, they have books. She pointed to a small library corner. Can I look? Of course, baby. As Aliyah ran off and Kai charmed Harriet into giving him another butterscotch. Jamal felt something unknotted in his chest. They were still homeless, still broke, still facing impossible challenges. But they weren't alone. Not anymore. That afternoon at the food pantry, Jamal expected judgment or pity. Instead, he found efficiency and dignity. Volunteers handed out pre-packed boxes with no questions beyond any allergies. The box was heavy with canned goods, pasta, cereal, even fresh produce. Another miracle in a week that had felt hopeless. As they loaded the food into the car, Aliyah asked, Daddy, why are all these people being so nice to us? Jamal thought about it as he arranged cans in the trunk. Because sometimes when things are really hard, the universe sends angels. They look like regular people, but they're really angels in disguise. Like Evelyn from Target. Exactly like Evelyn and Pastor Tammy. Her too. Aliyah considered this. Maybe we're surrounded by angels and we just never noticed before. Out of the mouths of babes, Jamal thought. Maybe that was the truth. Maybe angels were everywhere waiting to help. And it took losing everything to finally see them. That night they parked in the church lot again. But it felt different. Less like desperation, more like sanctuary. They had food in their bellies, gas in the tank, and tomorrow Lena's money would be waiting. It wasn't a solution, but it was a bridge. And sometimes bridges are all you need. As Jamal tucked the kids in, Kai asked, "Daddy, are we still on an adventure?" "Yeah, baby, we are. I like this adventure better than yesterday's adventure." "Me, too, sweetheart." "Me, too." After they fell asleep, Jamal sat in the driver's seat and made a list. First, get Lena's money. Second, find a cheap motel for a few nights. Third, figure out the logistics of getting to Portland. Fourth, start over again. It seemed impossible. But then again, a week ago, he would have said living in his car was impossible, too. And yet, here they were surviving. More than surviving, they were finding grace in unexpected places. Discovering that rock bottom had trapdoors leading to kindness. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hi Jamal, this is Beatrice from the library. I hope you don't mind, but I asked around and my friend has a motel. She says if you can clean rooms in the mornings, she'll give you a room at night. It's not much, but it's warm and safe. Call her tomorrow." The number was attached. Another angel. Jamal thought another bridge. He was typing a thank you when another text came through. This one from Lena. "Forgot to tell you. Check your old apartment tomorrow. Mail forwarding takes a few days, but I sent something there last week before we talked. Might still be there. Love you." Jamal frowned. Mail. What could Lena have sent before she even knew about their situation? It didn't matter really. Tomorrow he'd have the Western Union money. Maybe this motel opportunity would pan out and they could start climbing out of this hole. But as he drifted off to sleep, cramped in the front seat of the Taurus, something nagged at him. A whisper of instinct, maybe. Or maybe just the exhaustion playing tricks. Either way, he made a mental note to drive by the old apartment in the morning just in case. In apartment 218, now empty and waiting for new tenants, a stack of mail sat on the kitchen counter where Victor, the landlord, had tossed it. Bills, mostly junk mail, and at the bottom, a thick manila envelope from a law firm in Columbus, marked urgent, time-sensitive legal matter regarding the estate of Lorraine Hayes. The envelope that would change everything sat in the dark waiting while 3 miles away, a father and his children slept in their car, unaware that their lives were about to transform in ways they couldn't imagine, but that's a story for tomorrow. Tonight, they had each other, they had food, they had angels watching over them, and they had hope. And sometimes hope is enough to get you to tomorrow. Monday morning arrived with frost on the windshield and Kai coughing in the back seat. Jamal woke to the sound, his father's instincts firing before his eyes even opened. He twisted around to check on him, his neck screaming from another night sleeping upright. "My throat hurts," Kai whispered, his little voice. Jamal felt his forehead warm but not burning. Yet he knew how quickly things could escalate when you didn't have proper shelter. When your 5-year-old was sleeping in temperatures that dropped below 40 degrees, you need medicine today, baby, he promised, adding it to the growing list of things the Western Union money needed to cover. $500 had seemed like salvation yesterday. Now, with a sick child and winter approaching fast, it felt like a band-aid on a severed artery. Ali awoke next, shivering despite the 2 blankets wrapped around her. "Is it Monday?" "It is, sweetheart. So I have to go to school." The hope in her voice that maybe, just maybe, she could skip another day of pretending everything was fine broke Jamal's heart. "Just this one more week, baby. Then we'll be in Portland with Aunt Lena and you can start fresh at a new school." "Will they have a library?" "The best library." "Will we have a house?" "We'll have somewhere warm to sleep." It wasn't really an answer, but Aliyah didn't push. She was learning too young. Which questions had answers and which had only hope? Jamal started the car to warm it up, watching the gas gauge drop from a quarter tank toward empty. Every minute of heat was borrowed from their ability to drive, but he couldn't let Kai shiver while sick. He did the math again. $90 in cash, minus gas to get to Target for the Western Union money, minus medicine for Kai, minus gas to get to the old apartment. The old apartment, Lena's text, nagged at him. What could his sister have sent before knowing about their situation? Probably a birthday card for Aliyah. Her 8th birthday was next month, and Lena always sent cards weeks early. Still, something felt important about checking. "Okay, troops," Jamal announced with forced cheer. "First stop, McDonald's for bathroom and face washing, then Target to pick up Aunt Lena's money. Then, we'll see about getting Kai some medicine." He didn't mention the apartment. Didn't want to get their hopes up about what mail. But that whisper of instinct grew louder. At McDonald's, he bought one small coffee with his last $5, earning them bathroom privileges and 30 minutes of warmth. The kids shared the hash brown that came with it, while Jamal helped them wash up as best they could. Aliyah's uniform was wrinkled, but passably clean. Kai's cough echoed off the tile walls, harsh and rattling. Maybe he should stay home from preschool, Aliyah suggested, protective of her little brother. "There is no preschool today," Jamal said gently. Kai had been in a Head Start program, but that required an address. Another casualty of their situation. At 8:30 sharp, Jamal stood at the Western Union counter while the kids waited in the car. The same closed sign from Saturday still hung crooked in the window, his heart hammered as he knocked on the glass. "We're not open yet." Someone called from the back. "The sign says 8:30. "It's 8:30. A young employee appeared, barely out of high school, wearing too much eyeliner and an annoyed expression. "System still down. Corporate says, maybe tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Jamal's voice cracked. "But my sister sent money on Saturday." "My kids, look, man, I don't control the computers." "Okay, come back tomorrow." Please, can you just check?" Maybe it came through before the system went down. The girl sighed dramatically, but typed something. "Name?" "Jamal Whitaker from Lena Hayes in Portland," more typing than a frown. "That's weird." "What?" "There's a note here says someone came looking for that transfer yesterday. Some guy said he was your husband." Jamal's blood went cold. "What guy?" "I don't know. I wasn't working, but there's a flag on the account now. We can't release funds without additional ID verification. Do you have 2 forms of ID and proof of address?" "Proof of address?" The cruelest joke in the world. "When you lived in your car." My license, and current utility bill, lease agreement, or bank statement with physical address," the girl recited, already looking past Jamal to the next customer. Jamal walked back to the car in a daze. Tyrone, it had to be Tyrone. But how did he know about the money? And why would he? Of course, child support. He owed 14 months of child support. If he could intercept money meant for him, claim they were still married, take it, and disappear again. "Daddy!" Aliyah's worried voice cut through his spiral. Small change of plans, Jamal managed. "We need to stop by our old apartment first." The drive to apartment 218 took 15 minutes and used gas they couldn't spare. Jamal parked across the street, staring at the building that had been home just 4 days ago. It looked exactly the same. His neighbors' lives had continued unchanged while his had shattered. "Why are we here?" Kai asked between coughs. "Daddy needs to check the mail. You two stay in the car. Door's locked. I'll be right back." The front door required a key code. Jamal punched it in, praying Victor hadn't changed it yet. The lock clicked open. Small mercies. He climbed to the 2nd floor, his footsteps echoing in the familiar stairwell. Someone was cooking bacon in 112. Mr. Jenkins's TV blared through the thin walls of 205. Life going on. The door to 218 was propped open. Inside, 2 maintenance men were painting over the crayon marks Kai had made on the bedroom wall. His home was already being erased. "Excuse me," he called out. "I used to live here. Is there any mail?" One of the men shrugged and pointed to the kitchen counter. A small stack sat next to paint cans and brushes. Jamal's hand shook as he sorted through it. Electric bill, past due, credit card statement, over limit, grocery store, circular, and at the bottom, a thick manila envelope from Ellis, Thornton, and Partners, attorneys at law. The return address was Columbus. Jamal didn't know anyone in Columbus. He didn't know any lawyers, period. But the envelope was addressed to him, and the urgent stamp across the front made his stomach clench. "You about done?" one of the painters asked. "We got work to do." Jamal clutched the envelope and fled. Back in the car, both kids were pressed against the window watching. "Did you find Aunt Lena's birthday card?" Aliyah asked. "Not exactly." "Hey, who wants to go to the library? Is it warm there?" Kai asked, hopefully the warmest. He needed somewhere safe and quiet to open this envelope. Whatever was inside, instinct told him it was important. Maybe even life-changing. Or maybe that was just desperation talking. His mind creating hope where none existed. At the library, Beatrice was working the front desk. Her face lit up when she saw them. "Jamal, did you get my text about the motel?" "I did. Thank you. I was planning to call. She's wonderful. My friend Carla runs a clean place, and between you and me..." Beatrice lowered her voice. She could use the help. Her regular cleaner quit last week. "That's amazing." "Really? I just need to sort something out first." Beatrice's eyes went to the envelope in Jamal's hands. "Legal troubles?" "I don't know yet." "Well, you take your time. I'll keep an eye on the little ones. Aliyah, we got new books in the children's section. Want to show Kai?" God bless librarians, Jamal thought. God bless every one of them. He found a quiet corner and opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a formal letter on expensive letterhead and several additional documents. The letter began, "Dear Mr. Whitaker, this firm represents the estate of Lorraine Elizabeth Hayes, who passed away on September 28th of this year. As a named beneficiary in Mrs. Hayes's last will and testament, your immediate attention to this matter is required. Multiple attempts to reach you at your last known address have been unsuccessful. Please contact our offices immediately regarding your substantial inheritance. Time is of the essence as other parties have contested the will and probate proceedings are already underway. Sincerely, Marcus Ellis, Senior Partner." Jamal read it 3 times before the words sank in. Lorraine Hayes. The name was familiar but distant, like an echo from another lifetime. And then it hit him. His grandmother, his father's mother, the woman he'd met exactly once when he was 7 years old. The memory surfaced slowly, a stern woman in pearls, who'd come to visit right before Jamal's father left. She'd looked around their modest apartment with disapproval, spoken to Jamal's father in hushed tones, and left after an hour. Jamal's mother had cried afterward. 3 weeks later, his father was gone. But that was 25 years ago. Why would this woman, this stranger who shared only blood, leave him anything? Jamal dug deeper into the envelope. There was a copy of the will, dense with legal language. He skipped to the relevant section and nearly stopped breathing. "To my grandson Jamal Isaiah Whitaker, whom I failed in life. I leave the bulk of my estate including all financial assets, properties, and investments totaling approximately $210 million. This bequest is made with the following conditions. $210 million. Jamal's vision blurred. He gripped the table certain he was hallucinating. Homeless people didn't inherit millions. Single fathers living in their cars didn't suddenly become wealthy. This had to be a mistake. A different Jamal Whitaker. A cruel joke. But the details were right. His birth date, his father's name, Isaiah Hayes, listed as deceased. As of 2018, he'd been gone 6 years, and he hadn't even known. The condition section made his stomach turn, the money that was held in trust. To access it, he needed to appear in person at the law firm's Columbus offices. With proper identification, he needed to prove he was indeed Jamal Isaiah Whitaker, son of Isaiah Hayes and Keisha Whitaker. And he needed to do it before November 15th, just 18 days away, or the contingent beneficiaries would inherit instead. The contingent beneficiaries. Jamal scanned the document until he found them. Marcus Hayes, his father's brother, the uncle he'd never met. Tamara Hayes Brooks, a cousin he didn't know existed, and Tyrone Whitaker, his ex-partner, listed as spouse of primary beneficiary. His blood ran cold. Tyrone wasn't listed as an ex-spouse. Whoever had drawn up this will still thought they were married, which meant, oh, God, he whispered. That's why Tyrone had tried to claim the Western Union money. He knew somehow he knew about the inheritance. Maybe the lawyers had tracked him down first, thinking he could lead them to Jamal. And now he was out there possibly racing to Columbus to claim his grandmother's fortune. While he sat in a library in donated clothes with $87 to his name, Jamal forced himself to read more carefully. There were bank statements showing staggering balances, property deeds for homes in Columbus, Atlanta, even one in Jamaica, investment portfolios that made him dizzy, and throughout it all, his grandmother's careful planning, ensuring the money would go to Jamal, the grandson she'd met once, and apparently regretted abandoning. But why? The will offered no explanation beyond that cryptic phrase, whom I failed in life. What did that mean? How had Lorraine Hayes failed a grandson she'd never known? A smaller envelope was tucked behind the legal documents. Jamal's name was written across it in shaky handwriting. Inside was a single-page handwritten, "My dear Jamal, you do not know me, though I have watched you from afar for many years. I hired investigators to keep track of you, to make sure you were safe. I know about your struggles. I know about your children. I know about the strength you inherited, not from the Hayes family wealth, but from your mother's courage. I was a coward. When your father wanted to marry your mother, I threatened to disown him. I was wrong. Pride and prejudice cost me my son and my only grandson. By the time I understood my mistake, too much time had passed. Your father refused my attempts at reconciliation. He was right to do so. I cannot undo the past. But I can ensure your future and your children's futures are secure. The money is yours by right. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. There is a photo in your father's childhood bedroom. You as a baby in his arms. He loved you more than life itself. Leaving you broke him. He never forgave himself, and I never forgave myself for driving him to it. Use this wealth to heal what I helped break. Live the life you deserve. Give your children every opportunity. And perhaps sometimes remember that even cold, prideful grandmothers can learn to regret. With love I never showed. Lorraine Hayes. Jamal's tears splashed onto the paper, blurring the ink. All these years, he believed his father left because he didn't love them enough. But this letter painted a different picture. A young man torn between his family's expectations and his love for his wife and son. A grandmother's prejudice that destroyed a family. Regret that came too late for reconciliation, but not too late for restitution. $210 million. Enough to buy 1,000 apartments. Enough to never worry about gas or food or medicine again. Enough to send Aliyah to any school. Get Kai the best doctors. Live a life he'd never even dreamed of. If he could claim it, Jamal looked at the clock. 9:45, the Western Union office might be open, but without proof of address, the 500 from Lena was inaccessible. He had $87, a sick child, and needed to get to Columbus 300 m away in the next 18 days to claim an inheritance that seemed more like fantasy than reality. Daddy! Kai's voice carried across the library. I throwed up. Reality crashed back. Jamal rushed to the children's section where Beatrice was already cleaning up. Aliyah, holding Kai's hand while he cried. I'm sorry, he kept saying. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's okay, baby. Jamal soothed, feeling his forehead. Definitely fever now. It's not your fault. Poor little guy, Beatrice said. There's a stomach bug going around. You should get him to a doctor. A doctor with no insurance and $87 while $210 million sat in a bank account he couldn't access. Beatrice, Jamal said suddenly. That motel job, is it still available? I'm sure it is, but honey, with him sick. I need to get to Columbus. It's an emergency. If I could work for a few days, save up gas money. Beatrice studied him carefully. This is about that letter, isn't it? Good news or bad? I don't know yet. Maybe both. Well, Carla's place is right off I-71. Columbus is a straight shot from there. Beatrice wrote down a number. You call her right now. Tell her I sent you. She's got a heart for fathers in need. Jamal made the call from the library's courtesy phone. Carla answered on the second ring, her voice gruff but kind. Yes, she needed help. Yes, there was a room small but clean with 2 beds and working heat. Yes, Jamal could start today if he could get there. I've got 2 kids, Jamal said. 1 sick. Bring them. Lord knows I've raised 4 of my own. We'll figure it out. The motel was 40 minutes away. Using gas they couldn't spare but had to spend. Jamal stopped at a dollar store first, using 20 of their precious dollars on children's fever, reducer, soup, and crackers. It left them with $67 for gas to last until he could earn enough cleaning rooms to get to Columbus, until the inheritance fairy tale either came true or shattered completely. Kai slept during the drive, his breathing rough but steady. Aliyah read the legal documents, sounding out the big words. Dad, what's an estate? It's everything someone owns when they die. And what's a beneficiary? Someone who inherits the estate. So, Dad's grandmother died and left you money. It's complicated, baby. How much is $210 million? Jamal's hands tightened on the steering wheel. More than we can imagine. Enough for a house? Yes. Enough for food? Yes. Enough for Kai to see a doctor? Yes, baby. Enough for everything. Aliyah was quiet for a moment. Then, with the wisdom of a child who'd learned not to trust good fortune, she asked, but only if we can get it. Only if we can get it. The Willow Bend Motel sat just off the interstate. A relic from the 50s with peeling aqua paint and a neon sign missing half its letters, but the parking lot was clean. The office window gleamed, and the woman who greeted them, Carla, 60-some with steel gray hair and nurse's shoes, took one look at Kai and switched into caretaker mode. Room 12, she said, handing over a key. Right next to the office, so I can help if the little one gets worse. You can start cleaning tomorrow when he's better. Today you get settled. The room was small but immaculate. 2 double beds with quilts that looked handmade. A kitchenette with a microwave and mini fridge. A bathroom with gleaming fixtures and fresh towels. After 5 nights in the car, it looked like a palace. Is this our new home? Kai asked weakly. For now? Jamal said, tucking him into bed. He gave him medicine, got some soup into him, and waited until both kids were asleep before calling Lena from the motel phone. Where have you been? Her sister's voice was frantic. I've been calling and calling. My phone died. Lena, listen. Did you send anything to the apartment? Any mail? What? No, just the money transfer. Did you get it? Jamal explained about Tyrone, about the verification requirements, about the job at the motel, but he couldn't bring himself to mention the inheritance. It seemed too fragile, too impossible to speak aloud. That bastard. Lena spat when Jamal finished. I'll wire it to the motel instead. What's the address? Jamal gave it to her, then added. Lena, did Dad ever mention his mother to you? Dad? Jamal, we have different fathers, remember? Why are you asking about this? Right. Lena's father had been their mother's second husband, a kind man who'd adopted Jamal and loved him as his own until cancer took him when he was 15. Sometimes he forgot they only shared a mother. No reason, just something made me think of him. Jamal, what's going on? You sound strange. I'm just tired and worried about Kai. I'm booking you plane tickets. Lena decided enough of this. I'll book them for Thursday. That gives you 3 days to rest and get Kai better. Then you're coming here. Thursday, 4 days away. But Columbus was in the opposite direction. And the clock was ticking on the inheritance. Let me think about it. Jamal said, the kids need stability right now. And this job is cleaning motel rooms. Jamal, you have a college degree, which has done me so much good lately. That's not I'm sorry. I just want to help. I know. And you are. The money will help enormously. I just need a few days to figure out the best path forward. After they hung up, Jamal sat on the bed and studied the legal documents again. There was a phone number for the law firm. Did he dare call? What if there were other requirements he didn't know about? What if Tyrone had already been there spinning lies about still being married? Before he could lose his nerve, he dialed Ellis, Thornton, and Partners. A professional voice answered. Yes. My name is Jamal Whitaker. I received a letter about Lorraine Hayes' estate. One moment, please. Hold music. Then another voice. Older male. Mr. Whitaker. This is Marcus Ellis. We've been trying to reach you for weeks. I've been moving. I just got the letter today. I see. Well, time is of the essence. When can you come to Columbus? That's the thing. I'm in a bit of a situation. Is there any way to handle this remotely? I'm afraid not. The will specifically requires in-person verification. Mrs. Hayes was very particular about that. She wanted to ensure the right person inherited. Mr. Ellis, has anyone else been there about the estate? A pause. I'm not at liberty to discuss other parties. However, I can say that you are the primary beneficiary and nothing can change that if you appear before the deadline. And if I don't, then the estate passes to the contingent beneficiaries in equal shares. Jamal's heart sank. Marcus Hayes, Tamara Hayes Brooks, and Tyrone would each get $70 million while he and his children continued to struggle. Mr. Ellis. Well, I need to be honest. I'm a single black dad with 2 kids, one of whom is sick. I just started a job because we're having financial difficulties. Getting to Columbus in the next 2 weeks is going to be challenging. Mr. Whitaker, forgive me for being blunt, but do you understand the magnitude of this inheritance? I saw the number. Then surely you understand that any hardship in getting here pales in comparison to what you stand to gain. This is life-changing wealth. Generational wealth. Whatever it takes. Find a way to get here. Can you at least tell me why? Why did she leave it to me? We met once when I was 7. Ellis's voice softened. She kept tabs on you. Knew about your children, your struggles, your strength in the face of adversity. She told me once that you were the only Hayes who inherited something more valuable than money. Your mother's resilience. She wanted to make sure that resilience was finally rewarded. Jamal's eyes filled with tears. This grandmother he'd never known had watched him from afar, had seen him fight and fail, and get up again. There's more, Ellis continued. Your uncle and cousin have hired attorneys. They're claiming undue influence, mental incapacity, anything to invalidate the will. So far, the courts have sided with the estate. But if you don't appear to claim the inheritance, their arguments become much stronger. They want to steal it. They want what they believe they're entitled to. Mrs. Hayes cut them off years ago for reasons she didn't share with me, but she was very clear the bulk of the estate was to go to you. After ending the call, Jamal sat in the silence of the motel room, watching his children sleep. Aliyah had curled up next to Kai, protective even in sleep. They deserved so much more than he'd been able to give them, and now impossibly more was within reach. $210 million, enough to ensure they never went hungry again. Never slept in a car, never had to pretend poverty was an adventure. He had 2 weeks. 2 weeks to earn enough money to get to Columbus, prove his identity, and claim an inheritance that would change everything. 2 weeks. While Tyrone and unknown relatives tried to steal it away, Jamal looked at the motel key in his hand. Tomorrow he would start cleaning rooms, saving every penny. He would get to Columbus if he had to walk. Because Beatrice, the librarian, was right. Fathers were stronger than they knew. And Lorraine Hayes, the grandmother who'd failed him in life, had given him one last chance to prove it. Outside, traffic hummed along I-71, each car heading somewhere with purpose. Soon, Jamal thought, soon he would join them, driving toward a future he'd never imagined possible. But first, he had rooms to clean, money to earn, and children to heal. The inheritance could wait one more day. Everything could wait one more day. Because today, for the first time in almost a week, they were warm, safe, and together. And that was its own kind of miracle. Tomorrow, he would start fighting for the bigger one. Jamal woke at 4:30 Tuesday morning to Kai crying in the bathroom. His fever had spiked during the night, and now he couldn't keep anything down, not even water. He held him as he shook, his small body burning against his, and made a decision that would cost him everything. "We need to get you to a hospital, baby." "No," he whimpered. Hospitals cost money, 5 years old, and already worried about medical bills. Jamal's heart shattered a little more. Money doesn't matter when you're sick. Only getting better matters. He woke Aliyah, who dressed without complaint despite the early hour. They drove through pre-dawn darkness to the nearest emergency room 15 miles away. Jamal carried Kai inside while Aliyah held the folder of legal documents. Jamal couldn't risk leaving them anywhere. The triage nurse took one look at Kai and whisked them back immediately. "Severe dehydration," she said. "Possible strep throat on top of the stomach virus." He needed 4 fluids and antibiotics right away. "Insurance?" the registration clerk asked. "No insurance," Jamal admitted. "But I can make payments. Please just help him." They always helped. That was the thing about emergency rooms. They had to treat you whether you could pay or not. It was the bill that came later that destroyed you. But Jamal would worry about that. When Kai was safe while nurses started his 4, Jamal's phone rang. The ancient flip phone screen showed an unknown Columbus number. "Mr. Whitaker, this is Tamara Hayes Brooks. I believe we're cousins." Jamal's blood chilled. The contingent beneficiary. One of the people trying to steal his inheritance. "What do you want?" "To talk sense. I know you received notice about grandmother's estate. I also know you're currently homeless, unemployed, and have 2 small children to care for. How do you? We've done our research, just as grandmother did hers. The difference is we're willing to be reasonable." Jamal stepped into the hallway away from the children. "What does that mean?" "It means we know you can't get to Columbus. You have no money, no car reliable enough to make the journey. No way to prove you're a stable person worthy of such an inheritance. So, let's make a deal." "I'm listening." "Don't come to Columbus. Let the deadline pass. When the estate is divided among the contingent beneficiaries, I'll personally ensure you receive $5 million cash. No strings attached. $5 million, enough to solve every problem, give his children a good life, never worry again. All he had to do was give up $205 million. That's generous, Jamal said carefully. It's practical. $5 million in hand versus $210 million you'll never be able to claim. My uncle has already filed injunctions. Did you know that he's claiming you're mentally unfit? That a homeless person can't manage such wealth? Even if you somehow get to Columbus, the legal battle could take years. Years your children don't have." Jamal gripped the phone tighter. And Tyrone, what's his cut in this deal? A pause. Tyrone, who? My ex-partner. He's listed as a contingent beneficiary. That must be an error. The only contingent beneficiaries are myself, Uncle Marcus, and the Hayes family trust. Jamal's mind raced. Someone had lied. Either the documents were wrong or Tamara didn't know about Tyrone, or I need time to think. You have 13 days. But Jamal, this offer won't last. The closer we get to the deadline, the less generous we'll feel. The line went dead. Jamal stared at the phone, his mind churning. $5 million. It was more money than he'd ever dreamed of. But it was also theft, paying him off with crumbs from his own inheritance. He returned to Kai's room to find him sleeping peacefully, the phone doing its work. Aliyah sat beside his bed, holding his hand. Is he going to be okay? She asked. Yes, baby. The medicine is helping. Good. Aliyah looked up with eyes too old for her age. Dad, I read more of those papers while you were gone. The ones about the money. Aliyah, $210 million is enough to buy a hospital, isn't it? We could help all the sick kids whose daddies can't pay. Jamal smoothed his daughter's hair. Even in their darkest moments, Aliyah thought of others. He'd raised a good human. Despite everything, they stayed at the hospital until noon. Kai's fever broke. His color returned, and he even managed to eat some crackers. The doctor prescribed antibiotics and sent them on their way with instructions to rest and hydrate. The bill would come later. It always did. Back at the motel, Carla took one look at them and ushered them inside the office. You were supposed to start work today, she said, but her tone was gentle. What happened? Jamal explained about Kai the hospital. The missed morning of work he desperately needed. Lord have mercy, Carla muttered. That baby needs rest, not a dad stressed about cleaning rooms. You take today, get him settled. Start tomorrow. I can't afford to miss. Did I ask what you could afford? Carla's eyes were fierce. You got enough troubles. Don't need to add guilt to the pile. Tomorrow soon enough, but tomorrow never came. That evening, while Jamal was heating soup on the motel's hot plate, his phone rang again. This time, it was the Willow Bend Motel's main line. Jamal. Carla's voice was strange. Careful. You need to come to the office now. Jamal's stomach dropped. He tucked the kids into bed with a cartoon on the old TV and walked next door. Carla stood behind the counter with two police officers. Are you Jamal Whitaker? The older officer asked. Yes, we've had a complaint filed against you. Fraud and identity theft. What? By who? The officer checked his notes. A Mr. Marcus Hayes claims you're impersonating his nephew to steal from his mother's estate. Jamal's legs nearly gave out. That's insane. I am his nephew. I have identification, which he claims is forged. We're not here to arrest you, but we need to investigate. Can you provide proof of your identity? My driver's license, birth certificate. Do you have documents proving your relationship to Lorraine Hayes? Jamal's heart sank. He had his own documents, but nothing that directly proved his connection to a grandmother he'd met once. His father was listed on his birth certificate, but he had no photos of them together, no letters, nothing but DNA he couldn't prove without expensive tests. Not with me. The officers exchanged glances. We'll need you to come to the station tomorrow. Bring any documentation you have. Until this is resolved, Mr. Hayes has obtained a restraining order preventing you from traveling to Columbus or attempting to claim any inheritance. He can do that. A judge signed off on it based on his evidence of fraud. You'll have opportunity to contest it. But the officer looked around the shabby motel office. You might want to get a lawyer. After they left, Carla was quiet for a long moment. Then this about that envelope you were reading the legal stuff. Jamal nodded, unable to speak. How much money we talking about? $210 million. Carla whistled low. And they're trying to steal it. I can't prove who I am. Not in the way they want. My dad left when I was 7. I don't have photos or letters or anything. Just my birth certificate with his name. Seems like that should be enough. Nothing's enough when rich people want to stay rich. Carla studied him for a long moment. You know what? I changed my mind. You're starting work tonight. Night shift pays more. Darius called in sick anyway. You clean rooms tonight, tomorrow, every shift you can handle. We're going to get you enough money for a lawyer and a trip to Columbus. All restraining order be damned. Carla, I can't ask. You didn't ask. I offered. Now get those babies settled and report back here at 11 o'clock. We got work to do. Jamal worked through the night cleaning rooms with mechanical precision. Each trash bag emptied, each toilet scrubbed. Each bed made was $1 toward Columbus, toward justice, toward his children's future. He thought of his grandmother's letter about strength inherited from his mother and pushed through exhaustion that made his bones ache. By 6 a.m. he'd cleaned 17 rooms and earned $85. Carla paid him in cash. No questions asked. Tonight? Carla asked. Every night you'll have me. But when Jamal returned to room 12, the door was open. His heart stopped. He ran inside to find Aliyah sitting on the bed, tears streaming down her face. Kai nowhere in sight. Where's your brother? Jamal gasped. A man took him. Aliyah sobbed. He said he was our dad, but he didn't look like the pictures. And Kai was scared. And I tried to stop him, but Jamal's world tilted. Tyrone. Tyrone had taken Kai. He called the police, hands shaking so badly he could barely dial. The same officers from earlier arrived, now looking grim. Your ex-partner has custodial rights, the younger one said after taking Aliyah's statement. Without a custody order giving you sole custody, he abandoned us. He hasn't seen them in 2 years, but he's still their legal father. This is a civil matter, not a criminal one. He kidnapped my son. He exercised his parental rights. I'm sorry, sir, but without a court order, our hands are tied. After they left, Jamal sat on the motel bed. Aliyah curled against him and tried to think through the panic. Tyrone had taken Kai. Why? He'd never wanted the kids, called them anchors, drains on his freedom. Unless the inheritance, he knew about it, had somehow discovered he wasn't actually a beneficiary and had taken the one thing that would bring Jamal to heel with her baby. His sick, frightened 5-year-old who just wanted his daddy. His phone rang. Tyrone's number. Give me back my son. Our son, Tyrone corrected, his voice smug. Amazing how fatherhood suddenly matters when there's $210 million on the table. What do you want? Half. You sign papers giving me half the inheritance. And Kai comes home. Tyrone, please. He's sick. He needs his medicine. Then you better hurry. Clock's ticking. Jamal, 13 days until you lose it all anyway. But hey, at least you'll have both kids to be homeless with. Where are you? Close enough to watch you. Far enough that you'll never find us. Half the inheritance, Jamal. That's $105 million each. More than either of us could spend in a lifetime. I don't even know if I can claim it. Your uncle? My uncle? Marcus Hayes. He filed fraud charges. Got a restraining order. Tyrone's laugh was ugly. Man, they're playing you from all sides, aren't they? Tell you what, you figure out how to claim that money. I'll help with Uncle Marcus. But Kai stays with me until papers are signed. Tyrone, please. He's just a baby. Should have thought of that before you tried to cut me out of my rightful share. The line went dead. Aliyah looked up at him with terrified eyes. Is Kai okay? Jamal pulled her close, feeling the weight of every impossible choice. Give a kidnapper half his children's inheritance or lose his son. Fight relatives he'd never met or accept their bribes. Stand up to powerful people with expensive lawyers or crumble under the magnitude of it all. We're going to get him back, he promised Aliyah. Whatever it takes, even if we have to give away the money. Jamal thought of his grandmother's letter about strength and resilience, about healing what was broken. Would Lorraine Hayes want him to surrender to extortion? Or would she want him to fight? We're not giving away anything. Jamal decided, we're going to be smart and we're going to win. But first, they had to survive. The restraining order meant he couldn't go to Columbus, but it said nothing about phone calls. Jamal called Ellis's office and left a desperate message explaining the situation. Then he called the one person who might help Pastor Tammy from the church. I remember you, the pastor said warmly. The family and the Taurus. Howard Jamal broke down and told her everything, the inheritance, the kidnapping, the restraining order, the impossible situation closing in from all sides. Dear Lord, Pastor Tammy breathed. Okay. Let me think. We have a lawyer who volunteers at our shelter, Jordan Hale. He mostly does family law, custody cases for folks who can't afford representation. Let me call him. An hour later, Jamal's phone rang. The voice on the other end was young, energetic, and angry on his behalf. Mr. Whitaker. Jordan Hale. Pastor Tammy filled me in. This is absolutely unconscionable. A fraudulent restraining order and parental kidnapping used as inheritance extortion. We're going to fix this. Mr. Hale, I can't afford. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for you to trust me. Can you get to Columbus? The restraining order is garbage based on lies. I've already called the courthouse. The judge who signed it is known for rubber stamping whatever wealthy plaintiffs want. It won't hold up to scrutiny. But we need to move fast. My son, first things first. We get you to Columbus, claim the inheritance, then use those resources to get Kai back. Your ex can't hide forever. Especially once you have money for proper investigators. But without the inheritance, you have no leverage. He was right. Jamal knew he was right. But every instinct screamed to chase after his baby. I have maybe $200, he said. One car that barely runs in 11 days. Then we better get creative. Can you get to Harborview? I have a colleague there who owes me a favor. He can file emergency paperwork to overturn the restraining order. That's 200 miles. Better than 300 to Columbus. One step at a time, Mr. Whitaker. That's how we win. Jamal hung up and looked at Aliyah, still clutching the legal documents like a lifeline. Pack your things, baby. We're going on another adventure to get Kai to get everything. They left the motel at dawn. Jamal, having worked one more night shift to add another $85 to their travel fund. Carla hugged them goodbye and pressed an extra $100 into Jamal's hand. Loan, she said firmly when Jamal protested. Pay me back when you're rich. The drive to Harborview took 4 hours and used a quarter tank of gas. Aliyah navigated using an old atlas from the motel office, calling out exits like a tiny co-pilot. They stopped once for gas and bathroom breaks. Jamal watching every penny. Jordan's colleague worked out of a cramped office above a bail bondsman. He was older, grizzled, and took one look at their paperwork before shaking his head. They're playing dirty, he said. This restraining order is tissue paper, but it'll take a judge to tear it up. I can file the motions, but we need evidence you're really who you say you are. I have my birth certificate. Not enough. They're claiming sophisticated fraud. We need more, Jamal thought desperately. Then Aliyah, quiet Aliyah who'd been reading everything, spoke up. What about DNA? The lawyer looked at her with surprise. Smart kid. Yeah, a DNA test proving relationship to Lorraine Hayes would destroy their fraud claims, but those take time and money. How much time? Rush job? 3 days. $1,000. Jamal's heart sank. 3 days. They didn't have $1,000. He'd never see. What else? He asked. Character witnesses, people who knew you as a child who can verify your identity and relationship to your father. Jamal thought back. Who from his childhood would remember? Who could he even find after 25 years? Then it hit him. My father's sister. My Aunt Yvonne. She was at my 7th birthday party. The last time I saw my grandmother. She might remember. Where is she? Where? I have no idea. We lost touch after Dad left. I'll start searching, the lawyer said. Meanwhile, get to Columbus. Park yourself at that law firm's door. Make them see you're real, even if you can't go inside. But the restraining order says you can't attempt to claim the inheritance. Doesn't say you can't stand on a public sidewalk. It was thin, but it was something. Jamal thanked him and prepared to leave, but Aliyah tugged his sleeve. Dad, what about the church? What about it? Pastor Tammy knew us. So did Beatrice from the library and Evelyn from Target and Carla. They could all say you're really you out of the mouths of babes again. We'll need affidavits, the lawyer said, impressed. Sworn statements from anyone who's interacted with you recently confirming your identity. I can get those. Good. Email them to Jordan. He'll add them to our filing. Now go. Time's wasting. But first, they had to survive the night. Harborview was massive, unfamiliar, and their money was running dangerously low. Jamal found a truck stop on the outskirts and parked between semis just like before. But this time felt different, more desperate. Kai should be here complaining about the cold, asking for stories. Instead, there was a hollow space where his baby should be. I miss him, Aliyah whispered in the dark. Me, too, baby. Is Dad really keeping him? Jamal wanted to lie to protect Aliyah from the ugly truth, but he'd learned that children understood more than adults gave them credit for. Yes, but not because he wants to be a dad, because he wants money. That's mean. Yes, it is. When we get the money, will he give Kai back? We're going to make sure he does. Aliyah was quiet for a moment. Then, Dad, I've been thinking in movies when someone gets kidnapped, the heroes always have to be really smart. Like, they can't just do what the bad guys want because then the bad guys win. They have to find another way. What kind of other way? I don't know. But you're smart. And that lawyer seems smart. And all those people who helped us are smart, too. Maybe together we can think of something Dad won't expect. 7 years old and already strategizing, Jamal pulled her close, drawing strength from this incredible child who'd inherited not just his grandmother's resilience, but his grandfather's wisdom, too. They drove toward Columbus the next morning, stopping at a library in Dayton to use the computer. Jamal emailed everyone he could think of. Pastor Tammy, Beatrice, Evelyn, if the pastor could find her. Carla, he explained the situation and begged for written statements confirming his identity. The responses came quickly. Pastor Tammy not only sent her own affidavit, but collected them from 6 congregation members who'd met Jamal. Beatrice wrote a beautiful letter about Jamal's dedication to his children. Carla faxed 3 pages detailing Jamal's work ethic and honesty. But the surprise came from Evelyn. The Target angel had kept Jamal's thank you note, the one he'd insisted on writing that night in the parking lot. Evelyn scanned it and sent it along with her statement. This is proof of who Jamal Whitaker really is. A father who maintains grace and gratitude even in his darkest moments. Jordan called as they neared Columbus. The judge in Harborview is reviewing our motion. These affidavits are gold, Jamal. Real people vouching for your character versus your uncle's paid investigators. We might just win this. What about Kai? I filed a police report in 3 states. Tyrone can't enroll him in school or get him medical care without creating a paper trail. He'll surface. He's 5. He needs his routine, his medicine. I know. Trust me. I know. But we handle one crisis at a time. They reached Columbus as the sun set, painting the skyline in shades of amber and gold. Jamal had never seen anything so beautiful or so intimidating. Somewhere in this maze of glass and steel was the law office that held his future. Somewhere else was his son. Frightened and confused, he found Ellis, Thornton, and partners in a gleaming tower downtown. Even at 7 p.m., lights blazed in the windows. Jamal parked across the street, fed the meter with precious coins, and stared up at the building. "Is that where our money is?" Aliyah asked. "Sort of. It's where the people who control our money work." "Can we go in?" "Not yet, but soon." They slept in the car again that night, but this time in a well-lit parking garage that cost $20. Highway robbery, but safer than the streets. Jamal wrapped Aliyah in every blanket they had and told her stories about Kai, keeping his memory alive and warm between them. The next morning brought two miracles. First, Jordan called with news that the Harborview judge had granted an emergency stay on the restraining order pending a full hearing. Jamal could enter the law building, though he still needed proof of identity to claim the inheritance. Second, an email arrived from an address he didn't recognize. The subject line made his heart stop. "I remember you, dear Jamal. My name is Yvonne Preston, formerly Yvonne Hayes. I was your father's sister. Pastor Tammy from Harmony Baptist tracked me down through old church records. Apparently, we attended the same congregation years ago. I remember your 7th birthday party. I remember my mother, your grandmother, arriving uninvited. How she looked at you with such longing and regret. I remember the fight that followed. How your father defended your mother. How my mother left in tears. I've attached photos from that day. You can see yourself, your parents, and our mother in the background. I've also included a copy of a letter our mother wrote me years later expressing her regret about driving Isaiah away. I'm flying to Columbus tonight. Whatever you need to prove who you are, I'll provide. It's what Isaiah would have wanted. It's what our mother spent her final years trying to make right. Family isn't just blood, Jamal. But in this case, blood and choice finally align." Your Aunt Yvonne. Jamal read the email 3 times, tears streaming down his face. The photos were slightly blurry but undeniably real. His younger self blowing out candles while a stern woman in pearls watched from across the room. His father, young and handsome, caught mid-laugh. His mother, radiant and defiant, one protective hand on Jamal's shoulder. Proof. Undeniable, irrefutable proof. "Dad, why are you crying?" Aliyah asked. "Because sometimes angels come through. We need to find a printer, baby. We're going to that law office today." But first, Jamal had one more call to make. Tyrone answered on the second ring. "Ready to negotiate?" he asked smugly. "Actually, yes, but not how you think. You have exactly 1 hour to return Kai to the Ellis, Thornton, and Partners building in downtown Columbus, or I'm using every penny of that $210 million to destroy you. You don't even have the money yet. My aunt is flying in tonight. The fraud charges are dropped. I have photos, letters, and DNA evidence if needed. I'm claiming that inheritance today, Tyrone. The only question is whether you want to be a small problem. I pay to go away or a big problem I bury in legal fees. Silence, then you're bluffing. 1 hour. Tyrone. Kai better not have a single scratch on him or I promise you'll spend the rest of your life wishing you'd made different choices. He hung up and looked at Aliyah. "Let's go get your brother." The security guard at Ellis's building tried to stop them, citing the restraining order. Jamal showed him the emergency stay on his phone. He frowned but called upstairs. 5 minutes later, Marcus Ellis himself came down. He was older than his voice suggested, with silver hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He took one look at Jamal, exhausted, desperate, determined, and smiled. Mr. Whitaker, we've been hoping you'd make it. I have proof, Jamal said, thrusting the printed photos at him. My aunt is coming. I can take a DNA test. Whatever you need. Slow down, he said gently. Come upstairs. Let's do this properly. The elevator ride felt endless. Aliyah held Jamal's hand so tightly it hurt. The office was all marble and mahogany, the kind of place where millions were just numbers on a screen. Ellis led them to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Coffee, juice for the young lady. My son, Jamal said. My ex-partner has my son. He's demanding half the inheritance to return him. Ellis's face hardened. Is that so? Well, we can't have that. Excuse me one moment. He left the room and returned with 2 security guards and a young man in a sharp suit. This is Derek. One of our investigators. If your ex-partner is anywhere in Columbus with your son, we'll find them. Now, let's talk about your inheritance. For the next hour, Jamal provided every piece of documentation he had. The photos from Yvonne, the affidavits from his angels, his birth certificate, driver's license, even Kai's birth certificate showing Isaiah Hayes as his grandfather. Ellis reviewed everything with meticulous care. This is more than sufficient, he finally said. Your aunt's testimony will seal it, but I'm satisfied. You are Jamal Isaiah Whitaker, grandson of Lorraine Hayes, and the rightful heir to her estate. Jamal's hand shook, so I can, as soon as we deal with one small problem, he pulled out a thick folder. Your uncle and cousin have filed 17 different legal challenges. Most are nonsense, but they'll tie up the estate for months unless addressed. I recommend. The conference room door burst open. Tyrone stood there holding Kai's hand. His baby looked pale and scared, wearing the same clothes from 3 days ago. Daddy! Kai broke free and ran to him. Jamal catching him and holding him so tight he squeaked. Well, Tyrone said, attempting bravado. Let's talk about my settlement. Ellis stood slowly. Sir, you're trespassing in a private office. I'm here to discuss my share of my son's inheritance. Your son has no inheritance. Mr. Whitaker does. Community property doesn't apply to inheritances. And according to our records, you've been divorced for 2 years. Tyrone's face went white. That's not. We never finalized. Jamal looked up from Kai's hair. Yes, we did. I have the decree. You signed it. Remember? You were in such a hurry to be free. The security guards moved closer. Tyrone backed toward the door. This isn't over, he snarled. Yes, Ellis said calmly. It is. If you come near Mr. Whitaker or his children again, you'll be arrested for kidnapping, extortion, and fraud. I suggest you leave. Now, Tyrone fled. Jamal held his children and let himself break down completely. All the fear and stress and impossible weight of the past week pouring out in great gasping sobs. Aliyah patted his back while Kai, confused but happy to be with his family again, sang the ABC song softly in his ear. When he finally looked up, Ellis was offering him a tissue and a gentle smile. Your grandmother would be proud, he said. She always said you had steel in your spine. Now, shall we discuss the actual transfer of assets? What about my uncle and cousin? Oh, I wouldn't worry about them. A new voice came from the doorway. An elegant woman in her 60s entered, looking like an older, kinder version of the grandmother in the photos. Hello, Jamal. And your Aunt Yvonne. Jamal stood on shaky legs. This woman, this stranger, was his last blood connection to a father he'd barely known. Thank you for coming, he whispered. Yvonne crossed the room and pulled him into a fierce hug. I'm sorry I'm 25 years too late, but I'm here now. And I have stories about your father, photos he'd want your children to see, and testimony that will shut down Marcus and Tamara's challenges once and for all. Why would you help me? You could claim part of the inheritance yourself. Yvonne pulled back, cupping Jamal's face in her hands. Because I watched my mother die full of regret. Because I lost my brother to family prejudice. Because those two, she looked at Aliyah and Kai, deserve better than what we gave you. And because it's the right thing to do. The rest happened in a blur. Papers signed, accounts verified. Temporary funds transferred for immediate needs. A suite at the Four Seasons booked because Ellis insisted they needed proper rest and security. A team of lawyers assigned to handle Marcus and Tamara's nuisance suits. By evening, Jamal Whitaker had access to more money than he could comprehend. But sitting in the hotel suite, watching his children splash in a marble bathtub, he realized something profound. The money wasn't the miracle. The miracle was every person who'd helped along the way. Evelyn with her groceries, Pastor Tammy with her sanctuary, Beatrice with her lunch, Carla with her motel room and fierce protectiveness, Jordan with his legal expertise and refusal to give up. Yvonne with her courage to stand against family greed. Even the inheritance itself was just another form of help. His grandmother reaching across years of regret to lift up the grandson she'd failed. Dad. Aliyah stood in the bathroom doorway wrapped in a fluffy hotel robe. Are we rich now? Jamal considered the question. Rich in money, yes, but they'd been rich all along in the things that mattered. Resilience, love, and the ability to inspire kindness in others. Yeah, baby. We're rich. Good, Aliyah said practically. Can we order room service? Kai wants chicken nuggets. Jamal laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in so long, we can order anything you want. Even ice cream. Even ice cream. What about hot chocolate? Kai called from the tub. The kind with marshmallows. Any especially that? As he called room service, ordering enough food for a small army. Jamal caught sight of himself in the mirror. Same face that had stared back from the Taurus's rear view mirror a week ago, but different somehow, stronger, proven. Tomorrow, there would be decisions to make. Where to live, how to help other struggling families, what to do about Tyrone's inevitable attempts to get money, how to handle relatives who saw him as an undeserving outsider. But tonight, they would eat chicken nuggets and drink hot chocolate. They would sleep in clean beds without fear. They would be together, whole, safe, and in the morning they would begin the long, beautiful work of healing what had been broken, just as Lorraine Hayes had hoped. The money was just the tool. The real inheritance was the strength Jamal had found along the way, the angels who'd appeared when he needed them most, and the knowledge that he'd been worthy all along. He just needed the right keys to unlock it. What happens next will turn this night upside down, reveal a truth nobody expected, and remind us why sometimes the quietest voices carry the most power. Stay tuned to see what happens next. If you're enjoying the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. The morning after their first night in luxury, Jamal woke to find both children had crawled into his king-sized bed. Sometime during the night, Kai was starfished across the middle, one foot in Aliyah's face, while Aliyah had cocooned herself in what looked like every pillow from both rooms. For a moment, Jamal just watched them breathe, marveling that they were safe, warm, and together. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus Ellis. Good morning, Mr. Whitaker. When you're ready, we have several matters requiring your attention. No rush. The money isn't going anywhere. The money. Even after signing all those papers yesterday, it still felt surreal. $210 million. He could buy 1,000 hotel rooms like this one. He could ensure his children never knew hunger or cold again. He could fix everything. Or could he? As Jamal made coffee in the suite's kitchen, a kitchen bigger than their entire apartment had been, he thought about the past week, about sleeping in the car, about Pastor Tammy's kindness, about Carla counting out cash for motel rooms cleaned. Money would have solved their immediate crisis. Yes, but it was people who had saved them. Dad. Aliyah padded into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Can we go see Aunt Yvonne today? Jamal's newfound aunt had stayed late into the evening yesterday, sharing stories about Jamal's father, showing photos of him as a young man full of dreams and love. She'd promised to stay in Columbus for the week to help with any remaining legal challenges. Of course, baby. But first, we need to meet with Mr. Ellis. There are some things we need to decide. Like what? Like where we're going to live. What we're going to do, how we're going to help people. Alia's face lit up. We're going to help people. I think so. We know what it's like to need help. Now we can be the ones giving it. 2 hours later, dressed in new clothes, hastily purchased from the hotel boutique. Their first non-thrift store clothes in years, they sat in Ellis's conference room. The lawyer had assembled what he called the transition team. Financial advisors, tax attorneys, security consultants, and a woman named Grace, who specialized in family office management, whatever that meant. The first order of business, Ellis began, is addressing your immediate needs. Housing, transportation, security. What about my uncle and cousin? Jamal interrupted. The ones trying to take everything. Ah, yes, about that. Ellis's smile was sharp. Your Aunt Yvonne was quite helpful. It seems Marcus Hayes has been embezzling from the family businesses for years. Your grandmother knew but was gathering evidence when she passed. Yvonne provided us with that evidence this morning. What does that mean? It means Marcus is more concerned with avoiding prison than stealing your inheritance. He's withdrawn all challenges in exchange for us not pressing charges. As for Tamara, she folded the moment her father did. You're free and clear. Free and clear. Jamal let those words sink in. No more fighting. No more looking over his shoulder. Just freedom to build something new. Now, Ellis continued, we need to discuss structure. The estate includes multiple properties, investment portfolios, and business interests. You'll need weight, Jamal said. Before we talk about managing money, I need to tell you what I want to do with it. The advisors exchanged glances. Grace leaned forward. Of course. What did you have in mind? Jamal thought of Evelyn at Target, slipping $40 into his hand. Of Beatrice at the library, sharing her lunch, of Carla at the motel, creating work just to help them survive. I want to help homeless families, specifically fathers with children. I want to create something that catches them before they hit rock bottom, a charity, one of the financial advisors asked. More than that, a comprehensive program, emergency housing that doesn't separate families or have waiting lists, job training that includes child care, medical care that doesn't bankrupt people, educational support so kids don't fall behind while their families are in crisis. He expected pushback, warnings about cost and complexity. Instead, Grace was taking notes, nodding. Continue, the older woman encouraged. This past week, my children slept in a car. My 5-year-old learned to worry about money. My 7-year-old learned to lie about our address. No child should have to learn those lessons. Jamal's voice grew stronger. We're going to build something that makes sure they don't have to. Dad's going to build a helper place, Kai announced, playing with a stress ball from the conference table for families who need adventures, but not scary ones. Even the stern-faced tax attorney smiled at that. It's ambitious, Ellis said carefully. But certainly doable with your resources. We'll need to set up a foundation, hire staff, find locations. I want to start in Milford, Jamal said, where we're from. And I want to buy the Willow Bend Motel. The motel? Carla gave us shelter when no one else would. She deserves to be part of this. We'll renovate it, turn it into transitional housing. Families can stay while they get back on their feet. Carla will run it. She has the biggest heart and the best instincts for people in crisis. Grace was typing rapidly on her tablet. This is excellent, specific, actionable, and rooted in personal experience. I can have a preliminary proposal ready by tomorrow. There's more. Jamal said, I want to hire every person who helped us. Evelyn from Target as an outreach coordinator. She knows how to spot families in need. Beatrice from the library to run educational programs. Pastor Tammy as a counselor. They saved us with small acts of kindness. Imagine what they could do with real resources. The room buzzed with energy as the team began planning, but Aliyah tugged on Jamal's sleeve. What about Aunt Lena? She tried to help, too. Jamal's heart clenched. In all the chaos, he'd barely spoken to his sister. You're right, baby. We need to call her. The call to Lena was emotional. His sister cried when Jamal explained everything, then laughed, then cried again. Only you, Lena said, could go from homeless to multimillionaire in a week. It doesn't feel real yet. What are you going to do? Move to some mansion? Send the kids to Swiss boarding school? Actually, I'm going to build a homeless shelter. Want to help? Are you serious? Dead serious. I need someone to run the technology side, databases to track families, apps to connect them with resources, systems to coordinate services, someone I trust, someone who understands what we've been through. Lena was quiet for a long moment. I'll think about it, but Jamal, I'm proud of you for surviving, for fighting, for thinking of others when you could just disappear into luxury. Luxury won't heal what broke in us, Jamal said. But maybe helping others will. The next weeks passed in a whirlwind. Jamal and the children moved into a modest house in Milford. Nothing flashy, just a solid 3-bedroom with a backyard where Kai could play and Aliyah could read under the big oak tree. The neighbors didn't know about the millions. To them, Jamal was just the nice single black dad who'd gotten a good job with a foundation. True to his word, Jamal's first call was to Carla at the Willow Bend. I want to buy your motel, Jamal said without preamble. Carla laughed. Honey, you can't afford. $210 million says I can. Silence. Then you actually got it every penny. And I want you to be part of what comes next. Carla cried when Jamal explained the plan. The motel would be renovated but keep its character. Efficiency apartments instead of single rooms, a playground where the old swimming pool had been filled in, a community center with washing machines, computers, and a commercial kitchen where families could cook together. You'll run it, Jamal said. Same way you always have, but with a living wage and all the support you need. We'll hire staff so you don't have to work yourself to death. Benefits, retirement, the works. I don't know what to say. Say yes. You gave us shelter when we had nothing. Help me do the same for others. Carla said yes. Finding Evelyn took some detective work, but Pastor Tammy came through again. The target angel was working double shifts to pay for her grandson's medical bills. When Jamal explained his offer full-time work, finding and helping families in crisis, salary that would cover all her bills, and then some, Evelyn had to sit down. You want me to do what I already do? He said slowly. But pay me for it. I want you to do it better with a budget, with a team, with the power to actually change lives instead of just offering band-aids. Lord have mercy, Evelyn whispered. He does work in mysterious ways. Beatrice at the library took more convincing. She loved her job, loved her books, loved the quiet order of the stacks. But when Jamal showed her the plans for the educational center, a library of its own, plus tutoring rooms, computer labs, and homework help, her eyes lit up. We could have story time for the little ones, she said. And study groups for the parents working on their JEDs and college prep for teenagers who think higher education is out of reach. Exactly. You'd build it from the ground up, hire your own staff, create something extraordinary. Well, Beatrice said, adjusting her glasses, I suppose I could take early retirement. The Willow Bend Project, as they came to call it, broke ground in spring. Jamal insisted on a ceremony where each of his angels, Carla, Evelyn, Beatrice, Pastor Tammy, and even Aunt Yvonne, turned a shovel full of dirt. Aliyah and Kai planted flowers along the future playground, their small hands patting soil around roots that would grow as they did. Jordan, the lawyer who'd fought for them, agreed to provide free legal services to families in the program. Someone did it for me once, he said simply. Time to pay it forward. But the project was just the beginning. As word spread, Jamal was flooded with requests for help. Single fathers needing support, grandparents raising grandchildren, teenagers aging out of foster care. The need was overwhelming. "We can't help everyone," Grace warned during one of their planning sessions. "Not yet," Jamal agreed. "But we can create a model, show other communities what's possible. Maybe inspire people with means to remember people without." The first family moved into the renovated Willow Bend in July. A father with 3 children who'd been living in their van. Jamal met them personally, remembering his own first night in room 12. He handed over the keys with tears in his eyes. "Stay as long as you need," he told the father. "There's no rush. Just focus on getting stronger." "Why are you doing this?" the man asked, clutching the keys like a lifeline. Jamal smiled. "Because someone handed me keys once when I needed them most, and someone gave me groceries, and someone shared their lunch, and someone let me park in their lot. Small kindnesses that saved my life. Consider this me passing it on." Aliyah and Kai helped show the children their new room. Kai, now 6 and healthy, demonstrated how the TV worked with great authority. Aliyah, approaching her 8th birthday, quietly slipped a book onto the older boy's pillow, one of her favorites, with a note that said, "For the adventures in your head while you wait for the real ones." By fall, 23 families had passed through the Willow Bend project. 18 had successfully transitioned to permanent housing. 4 were still in residence, working through their challenges with support and dignity. 1 had relapsed into addiction, but was welcomed back when he was ready to try again. "No one gets thrown away," Carla said firmly at a staff meeting. "Everyone gets as many chances as they need." The program expanded. They bought the building next door, turning it into the Beatrice Hayes Learning Center. Jamal had insisted on naming it after both his helper and his grandmother, linking the woman who'd fed his children with the woman whose money made it all possible. Evelyn's outreach program identified families before they hit crisis. She haunted grocery stores and libraries, laundromats, and bus stops, looking for the sign she'd learned to recognize: the careful counting of coins, the slightly too bright smiles, the children who clung a little too tight. "I found a family today," she'd report. 2 kids, Dad just lost his job. Mom's medical bills eating them alive. They're about 2 weeks from the street. And the team would spring into action: emergency funds to keep the lights on, job placement services, medical advocacy, whatever it took to keep the family stable and together. Pastor Tammy ran support groups not just for the families in crisis, but for those who'd made it through. "Trauma doesn't end when you get housed," she reminded them. "Healing takes time." One evening, as the first snow of winter began to fall, Jamal stood in the Willow Bend Community Center, watching families share dinner. Kids did homework at one table while parents helped each other with job applications at another. The industrial kitchen hummed with activity as residents took turns cooking, sharing recipes and stories. "You did this," a voice said behind him. Jamal turned to find Aunt Yvonne in town for the monthly board meeting. They'd grown close over the months. This aunt who'd appeared when needed most. Yvonne had become the grandmother the children never had, spoiling them just enough, sharing stories of their grandfather, bridging the gap between past and present. "We did this," Jamal corrected. "All of us, even grandmother, in her way." She would be proud and humbled. She spent her life building walls. "You're tearing them down." Aliyah appeared at Jamal's side. Now 8 and even more perceptive than before. "Dad, Kai wants to know if we can have movie night here instead of at home. He says our friends need to see the new superhero movie." Our friends? That's what the Willow Bend families had become. Not clients or charity cases, but friends, community, family chosen by circumstance and kept by choice. "Of course," Jamal said, "but you're making the popcorn." As Aliyah ran off to share the good news, Yvonne touched Jamal's arm. "Can I ask you something? Do you ever regret not living bigger? You could have anything. Go anywhere. You have $210 million. Jamal watched Kai organizing smaller kids into a game. His laughter bright and unworried. He saw Aliyah helping a younger boy with reading, patient and kind. He saw Carla mediating a dispute over shower schedules with humor and grace. Evelyn teaching a father how to spot sales patterns at grocery stores. Beatrice showing a teenager college application essays. Pastor Tammy holding the hand of a father who'd just gotten devastating medical news. Jordan in the corner helping someone understand custody paperwork. All his angels still performing miracles just with better resources. I have everything, Jamal said simply. What good is money if it doesn't serve love? What point is wealth without purpose? We spent 5 nights in our car, Yvonne. 5 nights where my babies learned what it meant to have nothing. Now they get to learn what it means to have everything and choose to share it. That's worth more than any mansion. Yvonne squeezed his hand. Your father would be so proud. Your mother, too. And grandmother. She spent her last years learning what you were born knowing. That family isn't about blood or money or maintaining face. It's about showing up however you can, whenever you're needed, for whoever needs you most. The snow fell harder now, blanketing the world in fresh white. Inside the Willow Bend project, families who'd been strangers weeks ago laughed together. Children who'd been hungry played together. Parents who'd been hopeless planned together. Jamal pulled out his phone and scrolled to an old photo. His family in the Taurus that first night. Aliyah trying to be brave. Kai confused but trusting. He'd kept it to remember, to stay humble, to never forget what desperation felt like so he could recognize it in others. Hey Jamal, Carla called from across the room. We're about to start the movie. You coming? Jamal put his phone away and joined his community, his family, his purpose. As he settled onto the floor with children piled around him like puppies, Kai in his lap and Aliyah leaning against his shoulder, he thought about his grandmother's letter one more time. Use this wealth to heal what I helped break, Lorraine Hayes had written. Looking around the room at families healing, children laughing, futures being built one day at a time, Jamal knew he'd kept that promise. The breaks were still there. Poverty and trauma left scars that money alone couldn't erase. But they were mending slowly together. The movie started something loud and colorful with heroes who saved the world. But the real heroes Jamal knew were quieter. They worked night shifts at motels and day shifts at Target. They guarded church parking lots and shared their lunches with strangers. They opened their hearts when it would have been easier to close them, and they chose kindness when the world had shown them little. Kai twisted in his lap to whisper, Dad, are we rich? It was the same question Aliyah had asked months ago in a hotel room, but now Jamal had a different answer. He looked at Carla, laughing at something Evelyn said, at Beatrice helping a child sound out words. At Pastor Tammy's gentle presence bringing peace to the chaos, and at all the families who'd found safety in a vision built from shared pain and unexpected grace. Yeah, baby, he whispered back, the richest. And as the movie played and snow covered the world outside, Jamal Whitaker, formerly homeless, suddenly wealthy and forever changed, held his children close and gave thanks for every broken moment that had led them here. Because sometimes you had to lose everything to understand what everything really meant. The end. Up next, 2 more powerful stories waiting for you. Click to keep driving with us and don't forget to hit subscribe if you believe broken things still deserve to shine.